My name is Sandie, and I'm a compulsive overeater. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the Gray Sheet. They're committed to my sponsor. I don't eat in between those meals, no matter what. And abstinence is just the most important thing in my life, without exception. I've been abstinent since August 27th, 2009. Thank you all for being here. I haven't been on this meeting in several months, and it's just a joy to see so many faces. It's really lovely. Thanks to everyone who does service, and particularly for asking me to. That's very funny. I am in California, so it's, 3:45, and I'm outside and I'm taking a few minutes and I'm doing my digital gratitude list that I share with another member. And I'm feeling like, oh, I'm on time. I'm doing this. And I was saying things I was grateful for about Gray Sheet and service. And they went, oh, crap, I'm supposed to be speaking. So I zip in. So I'm grateful for gratitude lists. So this will truly be a higher power inspired share. I've not thought about it at all. And in that vein, I think I'll talk about it a little bit when I get into recovery, but I've been doing a lot of thinking, and a lot of soul searching, and a lot of inner work in the last month or so, a lot of no matter what's going on for the first real time, actually, in my abstinence, all compounded all at once, it feels like, in the last 4 or 5 months. So it's got me thinking about the beginning. And the beginning was awful, wasn't it? I mean, if we're all here, it was really terrible. I just couldn't stop eating. When I was young, I wasn't heavy. I had a family that was loving and kind, and there was no emotional or physical abuse. I am one of the lucky ones, grew up feeling loved, feeling cherished. And for some reason, that just wasn't enough. One of my earliest memories is of feeling not quite enough. And it took me another 10 years until I was about 16 to really find food as a way to make me feel better, to fill that hole. I spent a lot of years before I got in the rooms and even in early abstinence trying to figure out why. Why can't I stop eating? Why am I like this? And I finally came to the conclusion that it really doesn't matter why. And I think that's why Gray Sheet worked for me, because I was able to surrender the why. It's like I have brown eyes. I'd like to have blue eyes. I'd like to be 5'10", and I'm not. And I'm not, a normal eater. So I grew up in the Midwest, and I moved to California when I was a junior in high school, which is a terrible time to move when you're that age. Well, fortunately, we were moving to California and not somewhere even less cool than the Midwest in my adolescent opinion. Now I don't think it's so, but so it was okay, but very lonely. I went to a school that had more people in it than the town did that I moved from. So I was very alone. It was Southern California. It was very cliquey. It was very blonde. It was the mid 80s. Everybody was really blonde and really fit and wore shorts all the time because it's California. And I just didn't fit, I was a girl who wanted to read all the time. I wasn't blonde. I had brown eyes, and I dove into bags of food because I found solace there. I found comfort. My mom, who, it's funny because now I'm older than she was then, and that feels like such a young age. She was 33 when we moved to California, and she left everyone also, and she was super lonely. And we became binge buddies, and it would always sort of center around, I don't know, the Oscars or the Emmys or something like that. And we'd prepare, these were prepared binges. They were not yet the binge that I couldn't control. They were, on the calendar. We are going to get this, this, and this, and we're going to drink that, that, and that. And then we'd sit down and we'd look at all these beautiful people in all those clothes and wonder why we couldn't be thin like they were. So a little disconnect. And it was love. I started to equate overeating with love and with comfort, and I felt better. And later on, when I started drinking to excess also, it's the same sort of thing. My shoulders would be up here every day, and then I would eat and they would just kind of go down, or I'd have a glass of something and they'd go down. So I went through the next 10 years, losing and gaining the same 10 to 15 pounds, because I didn't gain a lot. I was very good at dieting. I am a good girl. I follow rules really, really, really well until I just can't anymore. And then I would, dive in again, and then I'd go on again, and I'd vow each and every time. I think a lot of us know that cycle where This time it's going to be different. This time on next Monday, New Year's Day, my birthday, everything, this is going to be the magic. Richard Simmons will show me how. Deal Emil will show me how. God almighty, all of them. The Susan Powder diet, all of these things. And none of it helped me. When I went away to college, I decided I wasn't going to be the nerdy Midwestern girl with brown hair. I was going to be cool. And I started drinking a lot, and I started using booze, and I lost a lot of weight, actually. And I also then decided that my self-worth would be determined by how many people I could sleep with. So it was a very dangerous and self-destructive path that I was embarked on. Food seemed sort of okay, but I didn't want to gain weight because I was this. Fortunately, I met my husband then. He's my husband still. And that sort of put an end to all of the other sex. And he didn't drink, so I didn't drink a lot anymore. And so what was left? Because I still had the problem. I still had the hole. I still had the thing that made me feel less than. And I started eating a ton. And dieting a ton, and really dangerous kind of restricting. I flirted with bulimia, and I thought that was the answer. I mean, in any other group of people, that sounds insane, but I think you all understand that felt like, oh, that's what I can do. I can eat all I want, throw it up, and all will be well. Problem was I couldn't do it. And that's the only reason I didn't get really sick, is I just literally couldn't, without all of my makeup smearing all over my face and sounding like I was dying. And I wasn't able to go into the bathroom silently and hide it from my roommate or my date. So I just kept restricting and getting more and more miserable. And the serious case of the I'll be happy when kind of syndrome, which I still have, turns out I still am me, even abstinent. The sort of belief that I'll be happy when I graduate, I'll be happy when I go to college, I'll be happy when I get a boyfriend, when I get married, when I have kids, when I have a house, when I get thin. All of those things have happened for me. And before I got to abstinent, before I got to Grey Sheet, didn't make me happy, didn't help me. I was still Sandie. Got married. I'm going to fast forward a lot of years. Got married to the boy. We do have a wonderful life. We had 3 beautiful children. One just turned 26 yesterday. So I am officially old. It was insane. But during that pregnancy, I gained a ton of weight. I developed gestational diabetes. The doctor told me to not eat what I was eating, and I didn't stop. And that's when the serious self-loathing began, because that's when it became a moral issue for me, when I realized I actually couldn't stop. I think all along, up to then, I had thought I could stop. If I really wanted to, I would find the way. But when the doctor told me my baby could be hurt and I couldn't stop, that's when I realized, oh, well, I am the monster. I was always suspicious that I was. All along, I was right. I am a horrible, horrible person. And so what do? Faced with some sort of, I eat. That's what I used to do. If I had any emotion, good, bad, indifferent, I ate to deal with it. So I ate. I gained 70 pounds with that baby. She was big, but she was okay. And I didn't lose the last 10 pounds of that 70 until I was 29, until I got here at 44. And so I kept trying. I just never got back. And it got worse and worse. And I think you all know that point, maybe we can think about it, where it just sort of switched into overdrive, where it really became this thing. I had another baby and just alone and lonely. We moved. I was fighting. I'm a terrible, horrible person when I'm in the food. I have found out that I am not a terrible, horrible person in general. But when I ingest my substance, I am an awful, mean witch. I yell at people. I'm a rager. I will fight anyone to the death to prove I'm wrong or right. Freudian sleep. Even if I'm wrong, I will. That's what I do when I'm in the food. I lie. I steal food. I am just not anybody that anybody would want to trust or be friends with. It got worse. I had a 3rd child simply because that was easier than going on a diet. So I had a baby because I could be pregnant. And my marriage was going south. It was going very badly. when my son, he's 17 now, when he was about, gosh, I'm trying to do all the math. I guess he was about a year and a half, 2 years old. My husband caught me, and I use the word intentionally because it sounds like, oh, I was caught shooting up. I was shooting up an orange snack that's in a bag that leaves dust all over you. There's no way to hide when you've had this snack. And I was shooting up. There's no other way to, I was doing that. And I was sucking down the diet soda because of course it was always a diet soda. And then I was eating something else, and I was reading the People magazine, and I was a caricature of the unhappy housewife in a minivan. And he drove up, and the bottom fell out of my life because he had it at that point. He'd spent 20 years with me by then, and it was just too much. And he said, you need to get help. He said the words, you're an alcoholic with food, which I know must be divinely inspired because I had never, nor had he, been in any 12-step fellowship, certainly none for food. Nobody had ever heard that. I didn't hear that until I got here. I didn't hear it in OA. So he said, you need to get some help or that's it, I'm leaving. And I really didn't care if he was leaving because food was way more important. My orange snack was way more important than he was. But I don't even know if my kid, honestly, I would like to say that my kids were more important than the orange stuff, but they really weren't. So that's a horrible thing to say out loud. But I didn't want him to get them. It was that he won't get them. It wasn't that I so much wanted them myself. So I went and I stumbled into an OA meeting, and I will always be grateful to OA because it was the first place where I found other people who did what I do, saying things, laughing about things, laughing about putting food in the garbage and then eating it. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not the only person. But that began, the next 4 years were the worst 4 years of my life in a lot of ways, because now I knew there was a solution. I am not a compulsive overeater who can have any ambiguity about what I can and can't eat. I can't have the dignity of choice that they like to call their food plan. There's nothing dignified about me and choices in food. It works for some people, I know, and I'm glad for them, but it did not for me. So what now I had is an exposure to what I knew intuitively was a way that could help me, but I couldn't get help. There was a missing piece and I didn't know what it was. And I binged. I did my best binging in OA. I would binge on the way to a meeting. I'd binge on the way home because this was sanctioned alone time. He's going to watch the kids because I'm going to the meeting. He doesn't know that I'm going to a drive up on the way there and a 7-Eleven on the way home. I got very depressed. I wanted antidepressants, and still my marriage was awful. I started fantasizing about driving over a bridge, driving off. And that's when I knew I needed something else. So I started an OA meeting at home where we are, because the nearest one was 40 minutes away. A woman came in and said she was doing something called Grey Sheet. It turns out she wasn't, but it clicked. It was the next thing, because that's me. I'm going to find the next best thing that's going to work. And I'll stick around for 3 months and then I'll do something else. And I found GreySheet.org, still there, still a great website, a lot better than it was then, and going to be even better this September when we get our new one. But I found out what you all do, and I thought, you're all nuts. There's just no way I can do this. I can't not eat that. How will I eat, the special carb at my daughter's wedding? My daughter was 11. I was thinking about her wedding. It was excuses. But finding a sponsor then was hard. There weren't these meetings. I live in an outpost. I'm about 2 hours from the nearest live meeting. So even the phone bridge you had to call or you had to email somebody to get the pin. And it was, of course, 8:00 at night in California. So everybody was asleep on the West Coast or East Coast. And then to find a sponsor, you could join this thing called the GreyNet, but you had to do this and you had to get a Yahoo account I honestly don't know why. And that's the only reason I do believe that there's a higher power at work in my life is because I kept doing it. Because so many other times I've just quit. If anything gets hard, I just quit. And I didn't. And I emailed and got on the GreyNet. And I emailed or put a post saying I needed a sponsor and that I was in California. And I woke up the next morning to 5 responses. 5 women emailed me back. And that's when I knew I wasn't in OA anymore. And I called this woman, and it was 10:00 on a Wednesday, no Mondays for me. And she said, here's what you can eat. I'm going to mail you the Grey Sheet because we don't send it. It comes with a sponsor. You come down as soon as you can to LA and I'll go over it with you. But in the meanwhile, here's what you can eat. Go get a scale. Sorry, I had a thing there. And I said, you don't understand. I'm at work. the nearest store where I can buy a scale is 40 miles away. And she said, do you have a grocery store near you? And I said, yes. She said, they'll have a scale. They'll have
That's
what
10 minutes. I mean, that's 15
Thank
minutes.
you.
Sorry, Sandie.
Wonderful. See, I knew I could fill the time. Always filled with trepidation, and there's never enough time. So I went and I got the scale. I was lucky. I had a really hardcore first sponsor, and but it was with love, and I was just willing. So I weighed and measured, and I weighed and measured one meal, and then I weighed and measured the next meal, and I called her, and I did what she said. I called her at 7 p.m. every night, even though I had 3 kids, and for one that was bath and bedtime. I called her every night. When I had, an ounce or half an ounce too little of a green vegetable that I had committed, I drove the 15 minutes to the grocery store to get that green vegetable because that's what she told me I had to do. I don't know why. And again, this is my just because I do have a higher power. I guess that's it. I fight it, but I do. So I would go and do all of that. I was on the phone bridge constantly. I lived with the earbud in my ear. I would be from the minute I woke up until late at night. I'd walk the dog in the morning. My son was, 4. I would be putting him to bed, lying in the bed with him, listening to the meeting, and all the time. And I just heard the message. I started going to LA as much as I could to go see real people. The first time I saw you in that room, magic. It was just magic. There were people there who were happy, and people who were in recovery, and people who were just there so happy to see me. And so I couldn't get out of that room unmolested. There was no way that I wasn't going to take at least 5 phone numbers. It was so welcoming and wonderful. So what I still do, I've been doing that now, 1 meal at a time for over 11 years. And I think about that every once in a while. I haven't had a snack in over 11 years. A snack. All I did was snack. I didn't even really binge so much as I just snacked all the time. I just grazed all day long. I've lost and maintained 47-pound weight loss, which is funny because for a while I do have this insecure, I'm not good enough. So for a long time I thought, well, that's not anything. There's some people here from big numbers. That's nothing. And then somebody reminded me that that's the size of a kindergartner on your back. I was like, oh, okay, that's good. That's something I can relate to. So I've lost that kindergartner, and I wear they're not teenage daughters anymore. I wear my daughter's clothes when they're home. I've in abstinence, I've had lots of no matter what's. But one of the biggest was being diagnosed with a rheumatoid arthritis several years ago and another rheumatoid disease. And the first thing I did, the first person I called wasn't my husband. It was another GreySheeter. It wasn't even a GreySheeter who had rheumatoid arthritis. I just was panicked because they were going to put me on these steroids and I was going to gain weight. People gain weight when there's steroids. And I just was in a panic. I hadn't panicked like that in a long time. And I called her, and I'll never forget what she said. She said, the thing is, Sandie, you have a program and those other people probably don't. And the difference is the medicine may make you hungry. The difference is you won't eat it. And it was just that simple. And it has been that simple. And because I've lost that kindergartner, my disease is better managed. I don't have to give up alcohol. I don't have to give up grains. I already done that. I'm lighter than I would have been, so it's easier. And if I have a hard time chopping, I now know I can treat myself and I buy it chopped. I'm worth it. I'm worth the extra $1. I sponsor people. I go on meetings. I do some service. If you're interested in kicking your program into a really the next level, I cannot recommend service enough. Timing, being in a meeting here, for me, it meant then moving into world service, and I'm meeting all kinds of people, and I have all kinds of people all over the world, and it's just given me a purpose. I'm really helping to carry the message because there are so many people like us out there who haven't found it, and it makes me panicky when I think how it only took one little thing to go wrong, to not be there, for me not to be here today. I get a little short of breath when I think about that. And I try to calm myself down, and well, it didn't. So stay here in the moment. But that's what motivates me to be of service, because there are lots of Sandies out there who just need somebody to show them what to do. just need to listen. So what I would like to say in closing is that if you're struggling, just get to the next meal. Don't even worry about the next day. Just get to the next meal. And if you don't think you can get to the next meal, call one of us. We all put our numbers in there. We all put our email. We really want to hear you. I love getting phone calls. Just go to a meeting. Just don't eat until the next meal. You can decide to eat. That's what my sponsor says. Thank you. My sponsor says to me, you can eat. Just wait till the next meal. And if you choose to, then you can. And you know what? I have never wanted to, because everything does pass. And as long as I'm abstinent, I have a chance at a better tomorrow. So thank you for listening. I pass.